All right, so listen. First things first, I need to apologize. We have our platform here, and in the future, I'll be sure if I'm going to lay a tweet out like that, I don't do it right after the pod drops. We have to wait 6 days before a response because I'm just not going to do 500 words on Twitter. I'm just not going to do it. But we're going to respond to all of this here, all of it.
Or
because I'm a casual.
or we can do an and/or, right? We can couple this up and double it up. You could do it from your personal account.
Oh, sure. No, I'll just do it from this.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine.
I just feel that there needs to be quite a bit of corrections to be made here because holy shit. So we're going to bring a little reality to this situation. So the first thing I'm going to say is. Coach L is the greatest coach in program history. And there's zero doubt about that. And nothing that I'm going to say denigrates him in any way. Okay. When his time is done here, there should be a statue in front of the Watsco Center for him. 100%. And I get that we all love him. He's like a grandfather. I fucking get it. But let's just have an honest discussion here. So the tweet I threw out there was basically, in essence, looks like the coach and the team have pretty much quit on the season. Perhaps it's time to look for a new change in leadership of the men's basketball hoops program. And holy shit, did that just set everybody off. All right. So here's what I'm referencing here. And I don't know how many of you guys actually watched the basketball games. Let's be honest about that. Virginia game, the game that started this 10-game losing streak that the season ended on. And by the way, finishing the season on a 10-game losing streak is an accomplishment. Fucking pretty tough to do, okay? That Virginia game, that's the game they scored 38 points in. Coach L legit quit on the team that night, for that game at least. Called 2 timeouts, did not move from the bench. Was the only one sitting on the bench. Assistants and the kids are all on the floor in a huddle talking. He is just sitting there, not saying a word, looking sad. He had given up on the game at that point. Given up. They went to ESPN afterwards, dude, and they were in shock over, like, I've never seen a head coach do that. Like, that was just not the right solution to a bad loss. Just wasn't. The other coaches were just shredding him. So that's the first thing, okay? Not sure if you were aware of that, but that happened. Now, that event could have been a catalyst. All right, it's never been this low. We're going to rally the wagon. At that point, they were 6-6 in the conference. Plenty of time left to turn the season around, okay? They did not. They did not win again the rest of the year. They went out on a 10-game losing streak. You were preseason 13, got as high as number 8, and you ended up finishing 14th in a 15-league conference and on a 10-game losing streak. You've now had 4 sub-500 seasons in the last 6. If that is not an invitation or at least allowable to discuss what we're doing here, I'm not sure what is. Now, the last 2 years, fucking phenomenal, dude. A dream season. I'm going to probably piss you off even more here. Because personally, I put more of those 2 years on 2 guys, Isaiah Wong and Jordan Miller. I believe that they were incredibly special players. And they willed this team to great, great heights. I put more of the credit to them than I do on Coach L for that. I just do. All right. So in my mind, those 2 years are an outlier. Because out of the last 6, 4 have been sub 500. So I bring that up. Well, what about the FBI investigation? It ravaged the recruiting and this and that from 2018 until 2021. Well, first of all, it didn't. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Miami was fully exonerated of that by February of 2018. It was a 9-month to 12-month thing for Miami, a cloud over the program that nothing came of it. There were no scholarship reductions. He had more reductions in 2013 with Nevin Shapiro scandal. Nothing came of this. There were 2 head coaches lost their job. 1 AD lost his job. Multiple assistant coaches were indicted, and none of them were with Miami. The coach in question was an AAU dude in Orlando. So I don't even know what you're talking about with that. 1 season, 1 recruiting class, 2018. He brought nobody in. Bro, you and I talked about it. There was 1 guy left on the roster at one point. It was insane. The other 7 teams that were listed in that initial FBI deal, none of them had that problem. All of them, except for 2, were able to bring in a recruiting class. The other 2 that weren't, Auburn, where Bruce Pearl had come out and was not cooperating. So everyone knew they were going to get hammered, and they did get hammered. And Louisville, they was still dealing with the Pitino sex scandal. He was about to get fired, and so was their AD. Every other coach, though, was able to bring in recruiting kids, except for Coach L. But it wasn't the FBI because that thing wasn't even going on. So I don't even know what you're talking about with that. The fact now also that Miami has just landed its highest recruit of the modern era in recruiting. You're talking about Jaleel Bethea, who's coming in, top 5 recruit. So the modern era is 7 years. Lonnie Walker says hi. I know he was only here for a year, but he's the highest recruit in Miami history. Was here for a year, went to the NBA. So I don't know what you're talking about where this is his first big time recruit. He had one 7 years ago. Lastly, injuries. Injuries. This year's team was just plagued by injuries. I don't know what you're talking about, man. Like, there are teams out there that had injuries. Gonzaga lost one of their star players in November for the season. Providence lost their best big man in early January for the season. They're still on the cusp of making the tournament. Let's talk about starters. If you play 32 games, 31 games in a season, Norwich had started 31 of them. Cleveland started 30. Wooga started 29. Joseph started 27. Pack did have some injuries, still started 25. Those 5 guys all had over 900 minutes for you. So when you talk about Wooga having a injured, spraining his ankle in January, missing a game, and that throws everything off, you've got to be smoking crack. What are you talking about? It's a 32-game season. There's going to be nags, sprained ankles, bumps, bruises, stuff like that. They didn't lose anybody. So these excuses are garbage, bro. Do I think you're going to fire Coach Hill? Absolutely not. But the fact that you don't even have the conversation and that you are making excuses for fucking everything, just making shit up, making up infractions that never happened. Who's the casual? Are you kidding me? That's it, bro. So for those of you that, thought that was a mic drop moment on Twitter, I'm sorry it took me 6 days to respond, but got better things to do. But there you go. This is my platform. I responded. Anyone has any questions, come at me.
Well, frost my tips. That was well done, buddy. Hey, when you absolutely said that online, I was like, oh, that's crazy. But as I just listened to you put out the points, I agree with you, by the way. I mean, and we've said this numerous times on the Orange Bowl boys, just because something's fireable and just because we make note of it being fireable doesn't mean that guy's going to get fired or that we want that guy to get fired. We're just bringing it out into the atmosphere, right? Mario Cristobal not kneeling was a fireable offense. That was the one that I responded with, right? It was a fireable offense. You talked about them looking at Coach L on the bench, ESPN. They made big hoopla about it. They're like, look at this guy. He's completely checked out. And I got a question. Is it because Coach L, the reason why I think you got so much pushback, buddy, is because Coach L is genuinely a nice guy?
Absolutely. I love Coach L, dude. Listen, I have as much reason as anyone to despise that dude. The guy that was coming at me made reference to what he did at George Mason. But you guys know what team I root for, right? When it comes to college basketball. How did Coach L make his name? Why do we know who Coach L is, who he is? Because his George Mason team beat the greatest UConn team ever assembled to get to the Final Four. So I remember, I have every reason to hate that dude. But he's awesome. He's like your grandfather. He's awesome and he's nice and he's a good person. And also, you guys are talking about like he's 50. I'm the oldest one here, bro. So I hate the fact that I got to bring this up, but dude's 75. Like, I mean, what are we planning for here in terms of long term? So I'm just saying, and I know it's going to piss you off, but yeah, I put those last 2 years on Isaiah and Jordan. I think Isaiah is the greatest player in the program history, and I think Jordan was just as special. And those two guys just willed it, and you're seeing that drop off this year. You really are. There's no leadership. There's no heart.
I think. Here's the other thing real quick, Toast, that he's a nice guy. So I think that's why you got so much pushback, right? And by the way, for people that don't know, Toast in terms of college basketball is the farthest thing from a casual. Like he follows college.
Since I was 10, bro, I'm 50, 82, 1982.
He very well, the Orange Bowl boys, we understand football is king. Yes. Right? We're not dummies. And we understand there's about, 10 serious Miami Hurricane basketball fans, which brings me up to my second point where I think Toast, that kind of went off into a different arena is because, listen, Miami, you're not a basketball school. It's been nice to see a Final Four. It's been nice to see certain things. We remember when they played in the Miami Arena in front of 10 people. Constantine Popa. Go back to those days.
How about Tim James, though, right after that, though? Biggest player of the year.
But you got to understand something, though. If this wasn't Miami, if this is like a true blue blood basketball school, if this is North Carolina, if this is Duke, Jim Larinaga is fired.
100%. Yeah, I wasn't going to say that, but 100%. 100%.
Listen, we understand the landscape. Don't misconstrue what we're saying. Just because we bring up sometimes that it's a fireable offense doesn't mean we want the guy fired, but let's call it what it is.